A plague doctor. No, not that one. And lots of bloodthirsty monsters. Nope, other ones. In the 14th century, the Black Plague appeared, which French Healthcare Institute in Paris wrote a report about to the day's French king Philip VI and told him that heavens and 3 planets were responsible for the sickness in the air, or for the miasma as they describe it. We are going to get back to this miasma thing, which is rather important. Muslims saw it as a martyrdom and mercy from the God for the believers. They assured that their place in the heavens has been arranged. For the non-believers though, it was meant to be a punishment. The plague started to spread mainly because of the rodents started to migrate to human populated areas from drying grasslands. At first, the bacteria called Yersinia pestis was spreading from one animal host to another, then by evolving it assumed a form of which transmits on human contact and became airborne, just like it was on the report which was given to French king. The death which lingers in the air. It was the popular saying among the folk. As a result of non-existent hygienic conditions, the Black Plague, which uses parasites like fleas and lice as a transmitter, spread from one person to the another with great pace. As the bodies of people who died from disease were piling up, it was getting even harder to contain the plague that spreads through the vessels like lice, flea and mice. Any person who contracted the disease and saw no treatment whatsoever was dying in 8 days with a 80% possibility. If she manages to stay alive by chance, she had been gaining an immunity against the disease. Even war tactics were influenced by the plague. In plague times, the bodies of people who died from the disease were being catapulted into the cities under siege. This was both breaking people's will to resist by causing fear and panic, and working like a biological weapon, as it was killing inhabitants of the city from the inside in a quick fashion. It is being assumed that plague outbreak bill is between 75 to 200 million people, although all the research to this day couldn't tell an exact number. This tells us it killed as much as World War II at the least, maybe 2 times of it, with a strong possibility. The Black Plague, which leaves a horrible traumatizing effect on human minds, was naturally affected the art as well. It became common to see death figures were cruising among the people in the painting stand. In the 21st century, which we are in, they still continue to be a popular theme by manifesting themselves on clothes, accessories, tattoos, at the same time in books, movies and games. I recommend you to read the novel by Noah Gordon, The Physician, as it handles the subject thoroughly. But there is another figure that appeared in the plague-ridden times and still in use, belongs to a mask, a jet black filmy robe, and as a completion, the mask that resembles a crow's beak was the natural look or like a uniform of the plague doctors of the day. In fact, that black filmy robes was nothing more than the apparel of the church and its priests. In those times, the people who are called scholars were all clergymen. That's why they were also the ones who were trying to give simple healthcare services. Okay, let's discuss the mask. Did you remember that on the French Health Institute's report, which was given to French King Philip VI, miasma theory was written? Yes, that green gas thingy that in lots of games it is used to describe poison, that is the miasma. But at the time, instead of the knowledge that particles and aerosols in the air were the transmitters of a disease as we learned it from modern science, it was believed that sickness spreads through the miasma, which is essentially bad smells in the air. When already insufficient hygienic conditions combined with the odor of mountain of dead bodies, an unbearable smell had covered all over the place. Then, even if they couldn't cure patients, what could priests do? Who were responsible of safe disposing of the bodies other than wearing gloves and covering all of their bodies with clothes? Of course they could wear masks. Plague mask was looking like a crow's beak, and crow or raven were the most common death symbol among many. But there was also a practical reason for the mask having this shape. Within its thin and long shape, it would have protected the wearer from the bad smells. The mask, which eye sockets are covered with some kind of glasses, had nice smelling flowers such as dried rose, lavender, mint, or smells like a vinegared sponge that could block foul odor in the back of its air holes. By these precautions, they believed that they were protected from plague spreading smells those emit from miasma. Here, a game was released as of last week in which, with that mask of the plague doctors, we fight against the plague-ridden monsters. And guess what our main character's name is? Often used in the games which set in this time period, and it means raven or crow in Latin. Corvus. First and foremost, Thymesia is an indie Soulslike, and with Corvus's agile, fast-to-react moves, enemies' rhythmic attacks, bosses, and ambient of the game, it is not a bad indie Soulslike actually. We are trying to save people in the Victorian plague, which is accepted as the third outbreak of the plague in history. As we do it, we also try to gather our fragmented memories from all over the place. Thymesia means exceptional memories in Old Greek. With that in mind, we are like a combination of Altair who probes the past by entering Animus and the Hunter of the Bloodborne. As I mentioned Bloodborne, as Thymesia adopted the same setting with it, it very much resembles Bloodborne. The innovative approach it brings to the Souls-like formula is the ability to take away enemies' weapons from their hands. We can rip the spear off of spear-carrying enemy and start using it instantly. From this perspective, we can say that it has more roguelike to it. One of the most outshining features of Thymesia is the wound system, which also resembles Bloodborne's taking health back system. As we hit an enemy, most of the damage we deal turns to a sickly green bar of miasma and enemy retains this as HP. If we don't manage to hit the same enemy for a few seconds, this sickly green bar turns to white one, and by that, as regular health, it gets restored. Here, the game is telling us to be fast. One of its Steam tags is fast-paced already. This wound system, which cannot shine while fighting regular enemies, becomes more relevant and interesting while we are fighting bosses. By the way, Corvus also has some weapons and abilities which is useful to shred through the sickly green bar at once. The game's difficulty is generally a bit low. Playing a powerful character like Corvus also reinforces this feeling. Because of this, you can afford to be more foolhardy than any other From Software game. Nevertheless, against some type of enemies and bosses, sometimes difficulty spikes occur and game can be felt like out of balance. The game, which is good in terms of music and atmosphere, cannot manage to present an interesting story and stays mediocre in that area. Yet, for a game that claims to be a Souls-like, it succeeds to get a passing grade with its combat mechanic. As far as I can see it, it doesn't seem to have any hitbox problems either. The most disappointing side of Thymesia is the playing time of 10 to 15 hours it presents despite its price tag. I think, again, being an indie game is a strong reason for this short playing time. Maybe if they had more resources and time to make the game, they would have come up with better story arc as well. The game is developed as Overborder Studios' first ever game, and it's needed to say it's a great start for a studio which makes its first game. So in short, if you have a desire to remember your Bloodborne moments and kill some baddies with a well-designed combat mechanic, you would have a good time with it for 10-15 hours. Renowned Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, who is also known with his Fermi paradox in the world, named a theoretical subatomic particle as neutrino in 1932. As a word, it derives from neutron, which means it doesn't carry an electrical charge, and bambino, which is set to a napless child who runs around happily on the street. Combining these two gives us the name of neutrino, which is essentially means little neutron. Because of that, neutrino is a chargeless and near massless particle. It was so hard to detect it. In the following years, it proved true that it exists. It was not interacting with any natural force other than the weak force, which is one of the four fundamental forces in the universe and conducts the radioactive decay, and again one of that four forces, which is gravity. Neutrinos were being produced by the fission and fusion processes of elements, and these processes are controlled by weak force. Fission is generally a human-made process where scientists use it to expose extreme levels of energy to produce electricity or make bombs, whereas a rare version of fission naturally occurs as radioactive decay. On the other hand, fusion can only occur under extreme heat, and thus the only place it can happen is inside of a star, including our sun. Stars stay alive with the enormous energy that is released by fusion reaction. So, neutrinos which appear as a result of these reactions were hitting to the Earth with near the speed of light, and as they hit it, they were coming out from the other side with no or minimal interactions. That's why it was given the monikers of elusive particle or ghost particle in those times. In 1956, after a lot of experiments, neutrino was directly detected and a lot of functionality. In 1956, after a lot of experiments, neutrino was directly detected and a lot of functionality has been suggested since then. In our day, scientists are still working on the matter. Particles' features of being chargeless and having very low mass made them think that it can be used to probe celestial bodies where light or radio waves cannot penetrate. This brought up the opportunities to use it as a telescope or radar. Besides, American scientists sent a coherent message from one side of a 237.74 meters of rock to the other using neutrinos in 2012, and that brought up the discussion about using neutrinos in communication technologies. In 1918, Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory detected neutrinos coming from 3.7 billion light years away active galactic nucleus and hitting to the Earth's surface. And this went right into the history books as the first usage of a neutrino detector in discovery of a celestial object which is a source of cosmic rays. Neutrino particle, which is also thought to prove to be useful for detection of the black matter, has been started to be used in the radar and radios of spaceships of humanity that colonized the solar system nearly 300 years after all these events. One more time, humanity was trying to do everything in its power to destroy itself with the political interests and schemes of all kinds, as if nature's threats and mysteries were not enough, and succeeded on dividing themselves as Earthers, Martians and Belters. It seemed that colonizing the Sol system thanks to the technology wasn't enough for them to understand the importance of protecting themselves as a species and making a true mental revolution to become wiser. Maybe the great filter of humanity was this: greed. Starting from neutrinos and connecting myself to the spaceship's radio, I wanted to bring you to an exceptional series, Expanse. The series that tells us the story of humanity after they colonized the solar system consists a great value for sci-fi and science fans, but not only that, also for sociology and politics fans. Guys, science, sci-fi, space, physics, astronomy, all these are my favorite topics. I try to read and learn about them as much as I can to cover my ignorance. Besides my beloved topics, I love to play games as well, and if any game includes one of my favorite topics, I immediately start playing it like crazy. For example, Victoria, which is going to be released in a short time notice, combines my history and gaming interests. Kerbal Space Program satisfies my rocket science and space curiosity with gaming. So, a great series like Expanse. First and foremost, it's a book series, but if you only have time to do one, my call would be the series. Where was I? Yes, at first I thought Star Citizen would be able to capture the vibe of an excellent series like Expanse. Alas, there is still no game called Star Citizen. It somewhat exists, but it was still really like a demo for 10 years. That's a lot of time. We'll almost have an official contact with the aliens, though still wait for Star Citizen. There are excellent games like Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, but the exact thing that I look for is a little bit different. But hopefully a game is coming at last in which we can feel the Expanse vibe, we can see the impact of our decisions, discover things and roleplay as good as it gets. So for all the things that we want for all this time, who do you think came to our aid? Despite all the love and hate relationship between us, despite all the bugs in their games, the makers of the most successful single-player role-playing games, maybe the most consistent game company, Bethesda, and of course the king of the bugs, Todd Howard. While I'm really trying hard to contain the kid inside of me, Starfield is teasing me shamelessly and I'm really excited for it. In the recent Xbox showcase, they blew my mind by erasing all of my low expectations. I had questions about the scale of the game's universe, don't get me wrong. They told that it will contain 100 star systems and over 1000 planets. That's a much bigger number than I thought at first. 4 different factions plus most likely some surprises. Different story arcs. They are very good at this, as we know that from Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Besides, by looking at the gameplay footage as it seems so far, FPS and TPS combat looks impressive. Usage of technology, spaceship upgrades and customizations, discovering a new planet using a robot, ability to maneuver between political factions and events. All these are making me out of patience. I shared lots of content here, but especially in my other channel about Elden Ring, and most likely Starfield will get the same treatment. It's going to come to Xbox Game Pass on day 1, so don't go hastily and buy it beforehand if you have a Game Pass. This warning was mostly for myself. Besides, saying Elden Ring made me remember these crazy Miyazaki and his team say that their new game is nearly finished. What kind of a speed you got there? Are you being chased by a Japanese dragon or what? Quality is also top notch all the time. If I may guess the game, I would say it's Armored Core, but that's no more than hunch of mine. Plus, we can grow this channel faster together. If you want to support me, the biggest thing you can do for me is to watch all my content and living a life. As a content creator, there is nothing to make me happier other than you guys watching what I produce. Additionally, leaving a like makes algorithm trust our content and suggest them to more people. Playing games and talking about them, discussing interesting topics with you, creating content for you are the things that I love. To be able to continue to my dream, your support is invaluable, so please don't leave me alone. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video, please leave your comments down below. May the reason be with you.